Hey yo, what is up? British wheel tanks are going to branch off from the Tier 5 Covenanter to the Tier 5 AEC armored car. You cannot jump into a Tier 6 Stag Hound. You've got to research sideways, starting with this one, the AEC armored car, 580 hit points, 290 horsepower, Tier 5 tank or Tier 5 wheel tank, medium tank. To be honest with you, I don't think a lot of people are going to play this. Most people are just going to free XP research and just skip this tank. And I think most people, or most reasonable people, are going to probably start with the Tier 6 if they're going to start any kind of grinding at all. And we're going to look at all the tiers: Tier 5, Tier 6, Tier 7, Tier 8, Tier 9 and Tier 10. This is the Tier 6 Stag Hound Mark III. With 800 hit points, 320 horsepower. Now this one has a quick firing gun, of course, because it's a Tier 6, 3.8 seconds. Reload, you probably don't need a rammer. You could probably use some optics in this tank, or maybe some gun stabilization. We still don't know what the penalty dispersions are going to be. So we don't know exactly how the gun is going to handle, but you have a rough idea. Tier 6 tanks, it is pretty much on par with other Tier 6 medium tanks. The damage is on the low side, 125 damage, but it reloads in under 4 seconds, so that's pretty quick reload. You have to use that speed of reload in order to do some damage, and then use your high power to weight ratio to get yourself out of trouble or evade the enemies when they are shooting back at you. The next one is probably the Tier 7 FSV Scheme A. This is probably one of the sexiest looking ones. It has huge wheels. It reminds me of that, what's that big wheel car? Forgot the name of it, but 1000 hit points, 700 horsepower, 29.17 power to weight ratio. Now you see a lot of these wheel tanks have very high power to weight ratio, and it makes it look like this tank is very nimble or very agile. But if the GSO R1010 premium tank is any indication, it means that even though it has very high rotation speed and very high power to weight ratio, it does not mean this tank will turn on a dime. In fact, I feel like this is one of the weak points of the tank. It turns really slow. If it's anything like the Tier 8 premium tank, the turning radius really huge, really slow turning tank, and I don't find that one of the strong parts of the tank. In fact, it is one of the things that makes me not like the tank very much. But one of the coolest looking ones are the Tier 7. I might even research and keep that. This one is the Saladin Tier 8 FV 601, 198 horsepower, really low horsepower. The power to weight ratio also reflects that, only 15 power to weight ratio. This means it has a mobility issue. It is not going to be very fast going forward or in reverse. 15 power to weight ratio is actually pretty low. However, you do get 250 alpha damage, much like your standard T44 100 or tanks like that have the standard kind of damage alpha that you get from your Tier 8 medium tanks. The premium version, of course, has much higher power to weight ratio. Was it 360 if I'm not mistaken? It has more of a heavy tank alpha gun on the premium tank, but the Tech 3 tank only 250 damage, 215 pen and 255 premium pen, 9.5 seconds reload with 0.36 dispersion. All around a much worse tank than the premium version. The Tier 9 looks really different from the rest of it because of that front nose. It looks like it has more of a car nose than it does a tank nose. But 560 horsepower with 22.4, much higher power to weight ratio and rotation speed of 36.51. This seems like the rotation speed much higher and much more agile and nimble compared to the Tier 8 Premium or the Tier 8 Tech 3. A huge upgrade with a 390 Alpha gun, 240 penetration on the standard shells, which is AP, and the premium APCR shells 315 pen. This looks like a more competitive gun and something I'm more inclined to keep in my garage because number one, it looks a little bit funky. The gun technicals and the accuracy 0.31 accuracy, 11.45 reloads, 390 Alpha, 248 pen. This looks like a competitive tank for Tier 9 and looks like a tank that I would look to keep in my garage. And last but not least, the Tier 10 Concept 5, 1800 hit points, 580 horsepower, 25.22 power to weight ratio, 65 kilometers an hour going forward, rotation speed 41.72. Now this is a very, very agile Tier 10 tank, which is going to mean that this tank is going to be very competitive and a very good tank. The stats say so anyway, but we'll see when it comes out what's going to happen. 430 Alpha gun with 260 penetration on the standard AP shells and 318 penetration on the APCR shells. Dispersion 0.30, very, very accurate gun, very high mobility, supposedly very good agility as well. We'll see what happens when it comes out on the common test where everyone can test it out. I think from the looks of it, in my opinion, I think the Tier 9 and the Tier 10 are going to be the two tanks that I definitely want to keep in my garage. And that is all the British wheeled tanks that is going to be released in 1.22. Hope you found this information useful. I will see you on the next video. Bye bye.